Hi, thanks for spending some time with me. Hopefully this will be a slightly longer video. My last video was around sort of things in our side, in our control. And one of the topics I talked about there was how we talk to ourselves. Uh, this is something that I've had a challenge with so long. Um, I've talked about previously about imposter syndrome, and that's where this is where one of those things sort of comes down. There was another video I did which was on catastrophizing, which is another one about these self-talks, and how we talk to ourselves. But there's even just simpler things than that, and simpler ideas that we have to sort of talk about as well. Um, when we talk to ourselves, there are lots and lots of topics that we can go on. There's things around work, there's things around our social life, there's things around our relationships. There's so many topics that we have self-talk about, and we don't even realize they're going on, and we don't even realize that half the things that we think have been said has not actually been said verbally. It's stuff that's going on in our head, and we've just taken it as gospel, or that somebody else said it to us. Um, so sometimes we've really got to be conscious about how we're talking to ourselves and what we're doing. And I think that is one of the biggest things, because I think in a lot of self-talk, and when I've talked to other people around self-talk, a lot of it is negative. As I've sort of said, I think we're wired weirdly, that we have so much negative. Maybe that's a fear thing that comes through, and we're worried about fear, and that's our self-conscious trying to protect us from getting hurt, emotionally hurt, physically hurt, uh, socially hurt. There's all different types of hurts. I mean, you take any one of those examples. If you're going out on a date and you have all your negative self-talk, it's probably your subconscious trying to emotionally sort of get you ready for rejection, or get you ready for that thing's not going to go further, that this person doesn't like you, all of those sort of things. So the self-talk is negative, so that as you're going through that process, you're not getting too committed. But the problem is that those sort of feelings and those sort of actions come through. Whereas, if you were just within that dating environment and just being yourself, and just being, you don't even have to be over the top and positive, but just being yourself without all those doubts creeping in and making you feel even more subconscious about yourself, you'd probably have a better time, and you probably have a better chance of having a second date, or just actually getting to know a new person, whether they end up being somebody that you form a relationship with, or somebody that just becomes a really good friend. But that self-doubt and that negative self-talk has probably already put you down the road that you already think that the worst is going to happen. So again, catastrophizing. But there's also self-talk around, work. I mean, I talked about the imposter syndrome before. This is a similar sort of thing, that those thoughts are constantly coming up, and we do have to control what we're thinking, and we do have to control what we're saying about ourselves, because if we don't do that, we're just going to make ourselves feel miserable, and we're always going to have that self-doubt. Self-confidence is a fragile thing, and we are, as individuals for ourselves, we are one of the best people to bring that self-confidence down. And we might have taken forever to build it up. You might have, in a work situation, you might have handed in a piece of work that you're really proud of, even somebody else is proud of, in terms of your manager and stuff like that, and they're quite happy to put it forward because it's been done so well. But the self-talk that goes along with it is probably, oh look, they've probably made changes, or I'm not going to be able to do a piece like that again. Oh well, that was just lucky, I got such and such as help. So you're making a lot of excuses around your own good work. We are also a lot of times very incapable of taking praise. I certainly am somebody who sort of struggles to take on praise from people. When people sort of say, oh, good job, it's sort of like, oh, yeah, well, such and such helped me. Or I even do something where at home life, if my wife is really happy about something that I've done, because I've just done it out of the stuff that I'm doing, I sometimes sort of said, oh yeah, my daughter did that, rather than take on the praise myself. And then my daughter gets the praise. Maybe it helps her self-esteem. She normally sort of says, it wasn't me that did it, it was Dad. And so therefore the praise is then sort of, and so I don't have to sort of accept it because I'm making a joke out of it or something like that. So a lot of times we are, even in the situation where we're going to get praise, the self-talk sometimes gets in the way of actually us taking that praise or internalizing that and getting, higher self-worth or higher self-esteem or higher self-confidence. It's amazing, all of those words with the self in them, and a lot of the people struggle with those ones: self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem. It's all dealt with that, and a lot of it is coming from how we talk to ourselves. So one of the things that I've tried to do with my self-talk, and I mean, like I said, I could talk about this for quite some time around how I, sabotage myself. I've talked about catastrophizing, but I'm very good at sabotaging myself as well, in terms of how I do things and what's going on. But I think what I've had to do is really make sure that, when I'm doing some of those conversations, that I'm actually trying not to deflect them with jokes or, humor or something like that. So it deadens some of the seriousness of it, even though it's a good thing, deadens some of the seriousness of it. And so you don't have to sort of take it on and sort of build up that good picture of yourself. It's easier to fail when you already have a lower opinion of yourself. Well, then it's easier to then sort of come out the other end and sort of say, but if you've got a high opinion and you've got a lot of self-confidence and then you end up failing, you've got a longer way to fall. And so what we're doing when we're doing with some of this self-talk is we're actually cushioning that fall for ourselves, because then we can sort of point to, told you so. Those amazing words, those amazing 4 words is, some of the things that really then help us to get over that and maybe not try again, because, we tried it once, we failed, yeah, told you so, knew that was going to be happening. But all of these, and there's another one of those expressions that, in terms of our self-talk, where a lot of times, reiterating these things in negative ways as well. So one of the things that I've had to do is really sort of pull myself up. As I say, I joke a lot of things, and I joke them away. Whereas sometimes I've, especially with my wife, she sort of says, "Just take the praise, just take it. You don't need to joke about it. You don't need to do anything. I just want you to say thank you." And that's all you need to do. And sometimes that's a good thing, because it actually does make you feel good if you can just take that praise and internalize it and just sort of realize that somebody actually appreciates the work that you've done, or the comment that you've made, or whatever it was that generated that praise. And sometimes it's actually a nice thing to just say thank you to that person, because sometimes praise is not easy for some people to say either. So we're making it more difficult for them, and so therefore you're not going to get that praise in the future. If you joke it away or you don't accept it, then it becomes less and less likely that you're going to get it. So then fulfilling your self-talk at the same time. So you can sort of see a lot of these things are cyclical. And, for me, praise was one of those things where I had to sort of take it, as it were. It sounds like something bad's happening to me or something like that. But a lot of times it was around making sure that I took it on, and so that it counted some of the self-talk that I had as well. But one of the other techniques is really about trying to be conscious around your subconscious thoughts, which is tricky to do a lot of the time, but it actually does work if you can do it at the right times. So sometimes it's about sort of realizing that you are having negative self-talk, stopping yourself in those subconscious thoughts, consciously thinking about them, and then trying to sort of deflect them or remove the reality of them. And sometimes they're just your fears talking anyway. So you really don't want to sort of be beholden to them or anything like that. And sometimes it'll actually make you feel a lot better around what's going to happen, because you've taken away that fear, and you can just go into something in a little bit more of an open mindset and be able to take on the good that comes through. So, again, this is about opening and taking things in. So, if you're in a social setting, instead of sort of thinking, oh, look, I'm the worst dressed person, or I'm no good, or whatever those sort of things. But if you sort of take that out and sort of say, well, actually, that's stupid talk. I'm actually comfortable in the clothes that I'm wearing, or whatever it happens to be, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm comfortable in the clothes that I'm wearing. These actually reflect the person I am. I don't have to dress up for somebody else. I'm actually dressing for myself, and I'm comfortable in these clothes. If somebody else doesn't like it, that's out of my control. So again, we're sort of making sure we're making that link there. Then you can sort of say, okay, I'm comfortable with my clothes. I've chosen these because I'm comfortable. And then, I'm no good, or I'm not well, who knows? Good is such a subjective term, and there's so many different ways that we can actually evaluate that in any shape or form. So again, it's not something that really actually resonates with anything that you're actually doing. So you have those little bit of sentences, and you try and take them apart and sort of realize, well, actually, they don't actually make any sense. It'll then become, once you do that in one space or at one time, doing it again and again becomes a lot easier. It doesn't mean that the negative talk or the negative self-talk goes away completely, because we're human beings. We want, and our fears are always strong, and we're always trying to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, so they'll always be there. But you've got to be making sure that those fears are true fears, and that you actually need that protection. Another one that I have a lot of times that I've talked with a lot of people is that the old interview process. We have to actually talk ourselves up. God, do people hate to do that? Nobody likes to stand out, and I think it's just the way a lot of people are. They don't like to do that. But in an interview, that's what we're meant to be doing there. So there, sort of, you got to be humble. You can't be sort of like, well, actually, that's wrong, because if I want the job, I've got to be. And again, it's not about showing off. I think there's people that sort of go from one extreme to the other. So, I've got to be humble. If I don't be humble, I've got to show off. Well, no, there's a nice middle ground that you can sort of actually go to, and you can still be directive about your accomplishments. You can be humble about them and talk about team, but you actually need to talk about I, and that I did these things, and so on and so forth. But the negative talk that comes around all of those sort of things is sort of like, you're just a show off, and look at you, and so on and so forth. So again, it's about the timing, whether the truth is there in terms of what you're saying about yourself, and whether there's actually sort of mitigating circumstances that you can point to, so you can remove that negative self-talk. So there was just two examples, and I think it is a conscious thing that you need to do. It is in your control to make sure that your self-talk is good, but it does take effort to first bring that. And once you do it once and twice and three times, it becomes easier and easier. And then you can identify that, and then just start to remove that self-talk and that negative self-talk, and start to have, maybe not positive, you mightn't get to that point straight away, but you can at least have neutral thoughts about yourself. And maybe it's just questions that come up. Is this something I want to do? Rather than, oh, you're not going to be able to do this. And that's two different things. There, you're sort of saying, is this something I actually want to do? Yeah, actually it is. Okay, let's go for it. Let's get it done. And so there's different things there that we can do at that point in time. Anyway, I hope that's been of interest. I think there's a lot we can talk about in terms of self-talk, but hopefully you found that interesting, and thank you for spending the time with me while I talk through my own issues, and also hopefully something of interest has sort of come across for you as well. So good luck to you. Look after yourself, and I'll talk to you next time.